Hello and welcome everyone to Knox Makers Tuesday night show and share. Welcome, welcome. Is there anybody here for the first time to show and share? Wow, quite a few. Here for at Knox Makers for the first time, yeah. Well, welcome. If it is your first time, our Tuesday night show and shares are an opportunity for everyone to kind of get up and show what they're working on, something they've finished, something they've been stuck on and have questions on, or something they even failed at. We see all types here, and we welcome all types. And so we get to see some really cool stuff. And tonight, we have a pretty full lineup, so why don't we get started with James, who's going to show a GPS unit.
How you do there? I have a GPS unit that I finally finished working on for the last several years. I had a different GPS unit and different battery system, and I bought a newer battery system and a newer GPS. And this GPS system is for hikers that you can go on hikes any place in the world and have satellite communications and know exactly where you're at, plus or minus 10 feet, which is pretty accurate. It has an SOS system on it. It's a Garmin unit. There. It's a Garmin unit, and it is a good unit. It's a 66i is the model number. The newer ones are like 750i is the model number. And it has audio communications as well as text communications. This has an SOS button on it right here that if you press that, if you're subscribed to their system, and you press that, then you will have text communications on this particular one or audio communications on the newer ones to a emergency system. And if you can tell them what the emergency is, and they can send somebody to you by downloading your GPS signal, and they'll find you exactly within plus or minus 10 feet, which is pretty close. What I've been working on is a battery system so that, of course, all batteries have a certain lifetime, and so I wanted to have a battery backup so that I would have an extended life to my unit. My unit, the life expectancy of the battery is about 18 hours. And if you only use it intermittently, you can operate it for about 48 hours. The newer ones, the 750i, the battery on it is 2 weeks if it's operated on just intermittently, and about 4 or 5 days if operated continuously. And you store waypoints on this, and it also tracks where you've been. Oh, okay. It also tracks where you've been to show you where you've come from, so that if you get lost, you can always go back the same direction that you came. You can store waypoints on it. The newer ones, you can store up to 20,000 waypoints on it, and so you can have you can record in there what these waypoints mean, so that if it's a particular type of a rock formation or a tree or something special that you waypointed there, that way you can take a picture of it, and when you get back home, you'll know exactly what you took pictures of and where exactly it was at. They use these also for geocaching, which is a game that people play. They hide things all over the world, and you try to find them. And then when you find them, then you log it and you put it back to where you found it, and it's like a game. So this is the battery, and this here is an adapter that goes into the GPS. This here will go into the battery, and then this goes into that, and then you have a adapter cord that goes from that into the back of the unit to power it. And I don't have time to go through all that stuff. Then you have an AC power supply that recharges the battery, or you can operate the unit right from the AC power supply. So I've built these adapters with the same types of plugs on the end, so that the unit can be powered by different means. And so this is a global GPS unit, so you can use it anywhere in the world through satellite systems. Any questions?
What type of battery is that? What's the chemistry?
This here unit, like I say, you get what you pay for. Some units that you buy at cheaper places, you get the battery that's in it and it's not replaceable. Garmin has the type of battery that is a I can't remember, name some good batteries. You're right, yeah, lithium ion batteries. But they are made so that you can use a AAA or a AA battery into the thing. And so even if you carry some AA batteries and your battery that's in it goes bad, you can just stick in whatever kind of battery you want, really, and they'll work. So it's very versatile.
Okay, I meant the external battery that you have.
This here is a lithium ion rechargeable battery, and it's a 12 volt. And it's small enough, and it's got 2 wires coming out of it. One is a male and one's female, so that you can have the one plugged into your GPS unit and be charging it at the same time if you wish. Any other questions?
Got it? All right. Thank you very much. All right. Coming up next, we have Matthew, who is showing fish.
Fish stickers, or two potentially many.
It's on. Oh, there we go. Okay.
So, I'm Matthew, prospective member. I go to the University of Tennessee. I like to doodle, and so I've got 2 fish stickers. They're, yeah. So, these designs were never meant to be made as stickers. I just doodled them. This one I made on a friend's iPad, and I uploaded into Inkscape. Didn't really know how to use Inkscape, and so I actually made 2 separate ones. One blue, one purple, and I was like, wait a second, this would be cool to overlay. So I overlaid them. And then, and this one is a deep sea fish. I can't remember the name of it. But in October, I was drawing a ton of skulls of different animals on classroom whiteboards. And I drew this one, scanned it for a PDF, and I was like, that would be a good sticker. So I made both of these probably in March, but putting them on was simple, but then removing all the negative kind of space was the disgustingly long part, and I only finished that like last week because procrastination. And then the originals, let's see. And so, there's the original on the whiteboard for that one, and then that's the original for the koi fish on that one. Yeah. Questions? Yes?
What did you use to cut it out on?
A cricket at the university.
Cricket?
Yep.
So that was a vinyl cut, right?
Yes.
So did you literally put the blue one and then overlay it like directly on?
Yep. So I put the blue one on first, and you can see it's a. Oh.
Yeah, steady hands.
Well, we can say that. So the first one wasn't a vector image, so you can see the blue is kind of really jagged, versus the purple was a vector image. Not a great one, because I still don't really know how to use Inkscape. But yeah, I just overlaid it, and I think it looks really cool. Yeah. A lot of time with tweezers, though. But yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, that weeding that vinyl can take a lot of effort. So kudos. Coming up next, we have Thea, who is posing a question I think we've all encountered in our lives. What do I do with this butterfly?
For those of you that are fairly new to the scene here, a couple of 6 weeks ago, we had a class on shuttle tatting, and so we made these little butterflies. And Sue showed hers a couple of weeks ago with this cute little tatted butterfly. And the question is, okay, so now I have a butterfly that's only an inch large. What am I supposed to do with it? So today's project is crazy quilting. This piece was actually made paper pieced, which means that you get a regular piece of paper and you draw whichever grid pattern you want for your scraps, and that depends on how large your quilting scraps are. And then you literally sew your scrap to the paper, and as long as all of your seams are finished in the end, you don't care what order they go on in. You cover up a lot of the seams with embroidery. A lot of my threads. This corner. There, you see how you stitch right over the top of it to highlight or camouflage depending on how good you do on your sewing. I finished it off with a number of different embroidery techniques. Up here we've got ribbon embroidery, ending in the ribbon rose, scrap lace. This is more traditional embroidery with the bullion for the lavender. Ribbon embroidery, that's the tiny butterfly with an embroidered dragonfly. Down here on the corner, we've got another bullion rose instead of the lavender. That's kind of a tricky technique. And you can also get rid of some of your scrap lace there, and I used it to cover up that seam as well. But that's about the size of the butterfly that Sue ended up with. The pattern that came with the clasp is for a glass case, but I actually just have all of my crochet hooks stashed in it. Made it a little longer. So, any questions?
Did I spot the tatted owl on there too?
Yes, I actually tried to pose the owl on an embroidered branch. So you've got the owl over here and then the embroidered branch down here.
I'm at a loss. How was that butterfly made
Yeah, it's shuttle tatting. It's tatting, Tatting. It's basically a series of lark's head knots, which are hitches and reverse half hitches. And I'll pass the butterfly around along with if you want to take a closer look at it. But we've got all the supplies back in Fiber Arts if you want to take a shot at it. It's not difficult to learn. It's really only 2 steps, but it takes practice to get the technique.
What are the 2 steps?
Well,
Fasten to something, did you use a hook, what?
no, there are 2 different techniques for tatting. You can use a needle or you can use a shuttle. We use a shuttle, which means you put all your thread on a little piece of wood, and then you pass the wood under and over, and then the reverse is the opposite. You go over and then under, and you end up with a thread loop that turns into a half hitch. It's closer to macrame with you're making your knots. Yeah.
How long did it take you?
It was a multi-step project, and I started it long before I met you, so I didn't keep a record. The actual sewing part of making the bag itself didn't take long, maybe an hour, and it's got an inner lining too that is solid. So you can see. But the bag itself didn't take that long, but embroidery is not one of my strongest techniques at the moment. And there's what you call the thinking time, deciding which stitches we're going on, which seams, and which thread colors we're gonna coordinate with the purple and show up. Because as you can see, that one in the corner kind of gets lost. So there was a lot of thinking time and a lot of embroidery time on it.
How did you attach it to the clasp?
The clasp was a commercial purchase, and it actually has holes in it. So once you get your bag finished, and I actually went back and bound off the edge, then you just sew in and out of the holes, kind of like you would with leather working, going in and out both ways, so it's double strength, and you just attach the clasp directly to your binding. And you can see it on the inside here, where you can see the stitching coming on the inside of the bag.
Thank you for that. Very cool. Coming up next, Benjamin showing a resin curing station.
Alright, I made this a little while back. It's it's for 3D printing. So when you print with resin, you usually have to do some post-curing, which involves a UV lamp that you shine on the print, and it makes it solidified and not toxic anymore. And you use a curing station, and most of the time they cost $100 or more, $150. So I made my own. It's a box of plywood that I got from in there. It was just scrap. Nobody wanted it. I pasted some tin foil on it, and on the inside I screwed it together. I also sanded the outside. And I bought a little turntable, and the turntable is solar powered. So when the UV lamp shines on it, it turns. And so you just have to have power going to the UV lamp. And it's bolted like that, so it kind of shines toward the middle. The problem is the resin that I'm trying to cure has to be cured in a big bowl of vegetable glycerin, because it has to shed oxygen. I don't know why. Anyway, so the bowl covers the solar panels. So the turntable is useless for that. And it's too big and heavy because it does that. So I have to go and turn it every 10 minutes and reposition the print, and you have to use a new glove every time because it gets dirty. Here's a print that I made. This is for my car model. It's got some flaws in it, but I'll clean it up later. I will pass it around. You'd like? That's about it. Yes?
How long do you have to leave it in there for?
An hour and a half, maybe, something like that. Anyway, it depends. Yes?
So what you're curing in here, are these then like master molds for your
Those
casting
are-
in the vacuum chamber?
That's the wax resin that I mentioned last time. And
Oh, so
they go in
this
the-
burns out.
yeah, that
of
burns
plastic.
out and then you pour the metal in. I didn't really explain that too well, but you know. That pattern is for a casting, and it goes in a flask of plaster, and then you burn it out in a kiln, and you pour into the plaster mold molten metal, and so hopefully it will be a model car part. Anyway.
Right. Coming up next, we have Russell, who's showing something. Might be a lamp. 50-50 odds on that.
You brought us barbecue.
Yeah, for everybody's dinner. Driving me crazy, this being backwards. I don't know which button it is. Oh well. We'll leave it be. Okay, this is a little treasure I found at an estate sale. I think it used to be a sand timer. The glass and the sand were gone, so all I had was the brass. So I grabbed an insulator out of my insulator stash, put it in the middle, and it was so dim, and I'm not sure why that light is so dim. I've had trouble with some lights. Some of the LEDs, they say they're anywhere from 3 volt to 12 volt. In the last 2 batches I've had, I connect directly to 12 volt, and they make that popping noise, which means it's not going to light up anymore. But this one I made so that you can screw this up like so. Then you're able to take the insulator out, and then you can put a different color. Hold on, don't go away. Don't leave me now. Give me a second. Thank you. Then you can put a different color gel in. Screw him back down to hold the insulator in so that it's not wobbling around in there. And that way it's more stable. And because it didn't make much light, I went ahead and put these 2 little LEDs in there. So now it's probably too bright for a night light. So yeah, whatever. So anyway, latest lamp from RP.
Stick it onto the camera.
Do-
Turn it on. Turn it sideways, put it onto the camera.
Like so? Oh, put it under the camera. I'm sorry. Oh. Okay, here we go. Let's see, let's move that. There we go. Yeah.
Is that a USB cable for powering it with?
This is just a regular, it's not a USB, it's actually for 12-volt lighting systems. So it's got a 12-volt transformer, and then you put a switch in line, and then I put the lighting's not very good. Anyway, put just a plug in here so that you can just use standard 12-volt LED equipment to fire it up. Anything else?
How long did it take?
No! This one really didn't take too long. Sue, was it Sue or Theo was talking about thinking time? That's what I call fret time. I fret over this stuff longer than probably what it actually takes to make it. But this one was pretty short time, maybe a couple hours. It wasn't too bad. I'm getting better at not breaking things. So, anything else? I'll just put this out just outside and fire it up. That way you can take a look at it and play with it and whatever. Just pretty stout. Pardon me, sir.
Thank you, Russell. All right. Last name I have on my list. Doesn't fix it. Nope. I tried. Last name I have on my list is Annie, who is showing a dollhouse. And here it comes.
Hey guys. So I don't think it quite fits underneath. I'm joking. Oh, turn the microphone here. Yeah. So basically,
I'll just hold it.
this is my lovely assistant on the right. You know, he forgot his pearls. But yeah. So basically, this is actually round 2 of building. So basically, I went and bought basically some plans off of Etsy. And they were just SVG kind of files, big file, lots and lots of like windows and really small pieces. So we tried initially to actually cut it out on wood. We used quarter-inch plywood. And I guess I was thinking the world was flat when we originally cut it. I didn't think about scale. So, you know, I dragged it into InDesign and like pulled it out and like kind of put it into different sheets, which we had to like cut the sheets up and like make sure it fit on for the laser cutter. But then it actually uses a tab system, which is kind of cool because you actually don't necessarily need a whole lot of glue to actually like hold it together. And it's got tabs with kind of like a U shape that kind of like you kind of like cover it in to like hold some of the pieces upright. But I didn't actually think about different thicknesses of things, so we had switched to like a thicker wood, which we started trying to like sand all the tabs down because they wouldn't fit in. So that was kind of and then we also realized I was doing kind of a different scale. So I was doing a 1/12 scale, which means that like for every foot is an inch, which was really big. So it was like about twice that much. So we actually cut it down
So the plans we started with was going to make this twice as big as this.
Well, it's a little big. So anyways, we cut it down to half scale, which so, you know, every foot in the real world is about half an inch in dollhouse land. We decided to go with eighth inch MDF to cut it out, just because it was a little bit like thicker, because when I put on, like once we put on kind of the boards, I had a couple things crack over the weight and breaking of tabs. So then, you know, I think I assembled it pretty much this weekend. It didn't take all that long. I mean, probably like a couple hours to assemble the actual cutting of everything on the laser cutter.
So it took about it took 3 sheets of 4x8 MDF, but that was, one of those sheets was a mistake sheet. So, so that was but each one of the cuts that we did took about an hour and a half on the laser cutter. So I would say that as far as laser cutting, there's at least 6 to 7 hours of laser cutting into this.
So like next steps for me is I've got all the like railing that still needs to go on, which we did do on wood so that I could kind of round out the like edging. And then I'm gonna do electrical. So I'm doing like a tape system that'll like kind of tape around the inside. And then I'm gonna do some siding with like cereal boxes cut up into strips. And then I'll be cutting off kind of the tabs and putting on like the roof tiles individually and doing painting. So, yep, so phase 1. So.
Well, you'll definitely have to bring it back for phase 2. Get a whole team of guys to bring it in that time, because we would definitely love to see the progress on that. All right, that was the last name on my list. Is there anybody else who had a show? Yeah, back there? Oh, yeah, more than welcome.
It won't take very long, because really I want to pose the question more than show what's going on. So this is correct, and that doesn't help us. Okay. I want to show, if I may, a passion, what I've got going on. Does this zoom down? What do I do?
You have a little plus and minus button.
Plus and minus. Okay, that's really not it. There's a lamp somebody made, this guy did. Anyway, it wound up in the favorites, okay? Anyway, retro gaming has kind of been a passion of mine. I don't know if anybody is into it or even knows, but people with my color hair came of age in the 80s. The arcades were the place to be, put a lot of quarters in machines. And that was kind of, remember? Yeah, okay, I get it. Yes, very good. Well, I'm sorry, that's a controller. This is a project that I've been working on for some time. A lot of thinking. This is a cocktail table that has 2 games in it. Ms. Pac-Man is a PC board back here, and then we have Galaga up front. These are the real 1980 boards. These are not emulators. And if you go and you get a 1-Up, or you get a Retro Pi, or you get an Elf box, or you get any kind of emulator loaded on a PC, you play a real board, then play the emulator, you will definitely know the difference. Just because this was all built discrete electronics, noises were not sampled, they were actually generated electronically, and on and on and on and yada as it goes. Anyway, that's kind of the introduction. It's kind of been the passion, the mania. I've got a Donkey Kong board yet to put in. I'm putting together a Tempest machine, a Centipede. But anyway, having 2 boards in the same cabinet is just good economy. And to be able to switch from one board to the next is kind of the idea, and at the same time to protect that ancient electronics. They've all been recapped, everything's been rebuilt. It's as good as it possibly can be for something that is, 40-something years old? Am I thinking back too far? All right. Anyway, so, okay. Anyway, there are things out there. In the mid-'80s, there came a standard called JAMMA, J-A-M-M-A, Japanese Amusement Machine Manufacturing Association, and all arcades and retro machines are now kind of on this JAMMA standard. The machines we're talking about were built pre to that, but everybody kind of comes in, it's just a wiring schematic is all it is on an edge card. So to switch from one to the next is kind of where we are. And so I've got a strategy that I'm hoping somebody who's clever with Arduino, with Raspberry Pi, with even the Cduino that's coming up. It's a switching mechanism that I'm working on right now. I don't want to elaborate and bore everybody to tears with it, but I've got some issues that we're thinking through right now. There is a board in there, and when you press player 1 and player 2, it'll switch from one game to the next, no problem. The only problem is it has full power on both boards all at the same time. That's not so good. We want to preserve that, so that's why I'm switching it up. So that's what's going on. This has taken some time. It's been a real labor of love, and I would love to get some input on coding and also welding. If somebody could help me spot weld my metal box to collect the quarters, I would really appreciate that. That's it. That's all I have to do. I appreciate you letting me expose my mania. It's a terrible thing for a nerd to tell what his secret passions really are. Yes, ma'am.
You're in a good crowd for secret passions.
Yes.
Have you found Joust yet?
Joust, I have seen it, but I can't afford the PCB yet. But that's a wonderful game. It's one of the must-haves.
It's the one that I used to play at
Yes.
while I was waiting for my free pizzas from having read all the books. So.
Oh, yes, yes. Oh, another thing about like Joust and these other, and the reason emulators are so tough is because you're taking the software of all the ROMs and you're kind of emulating it through another computer that was never designed to do that. Also, the using a computer monitor as your screen is kind of tough. You really need that old CRT because everything that you put in between the real electronics and the output and the game inputs going in causes a minute lag. And even when you're going from one of those boards to a computer monitor, there is a company that has contracted with LG that they are making like 19-inch 4x3 flat panel LED screens that natively have the old CGA RGB driver. So it will take the input directly from one of these old boards, no lag, no translation, and it'll put it out a beautiful crisp image, better than anything we've ever seen. So every time I get a board, I'm buying another one of those monitors because it's just the way to go. But Joust is one, Frogger is another one. And if I could ever, yeah, we've got Mizpac, we've got Donkey Kong, we've got Galaga, we've got Centipede, and if we can get Frogger and if we can get Joust, which is one of the horizontal screens, if you do that, you also have to get Defender. That's a must play. So, yeah, these are great games. You can't emulate them. Sorry, kids. Anybody that doesn't have this color hair probably has never really experienced the real thing. So, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Anybody else who has something to show tonight? All right. Well, we have a few announcements immediately following the show and share tonight. There will be a new member onboarding. And if you are unfamiliar, it is now a requirement to attend a new member onboarding session. If you are a trial member, it's a condition of becoming a full member. And we will be holding one exactly after this. And it's just a chance to learn about the organization, learn who we are, what we do, what we stand for, and get get to know the space a little bit more. And that will happen directly after this. We are also looking for people to help out with a number of things this evening. We need people to help with taking out the trash to the dumpster. We need people to help replace the air filters. And we need a number of people to help move things from Bay 1 there. You probably saw it as you were coming through the front door. All the cutting table and the things there and move those into metalworking. So Joe needs some people to help out with that. So anybody who is willing to move a few things, the more hands we have involved, the faster it will go. So just hang around outside the classroom if you are willing to help with that afterwards. As far as classes coming up, we have just one more ticket left for the laser cutter authorization class on Saturday. So if you are not authorized on the laser cutter, snap that up before it goes. And then one final announcement. It is our dear member Sue's birthday today. So please wish Sue a happy birthday. With that, that is all we have for tonight. So please go out, enjoy the workshop, talk it up. If you are a new member who needs the new member onboarding, stick around. But with that, it's now open hack. So thank you for coming and get home safe.